Alright, what we do today? What content? Alright, actually there's not much content today. I'm just excited to press this button, so I decided I'll record it. I'll probably do a video for Club Boss, maybe later. I'll upload it later probably. But yeah, just going to do some simple upgrading. Oh, feels so good. Oh, I'm still so far though. I have to clear all this. I guess I should start opening. I don't have to do the 4s, I have to do the 5s though. Because this evolution pack only gives 3 and 4. But it'll get there eventually. Now, what did I want to open? Oh, where did I get awakening chip chest from? Oh, I need this now actually. Wait, I can awaken Garou's second purple star. Hehe. I need 2 more. Okay, let's go. Wait, no, that's the wrong one. That's the evolution chip. Where do I get the other one? Anyway, let's open this now. This is from last season's live clash. I haven't opened them, but here we go. Oh yes! Sharp sword sigil, boys. It feels so good. Every time you get a sharp sword, it's like, oh, it feels so good to get a sharp sword sigils. I think I can upgrade someone with that actually. Let's check. Wait, I think I have to go to talent. Oh my god, feels good, man. Oh. No, look at that damage increase. Wow. Oh, that feels good. Feels so good. Okay. Now the next step is... what else do I have to open for today? I guess I'll do a hero review. But let's go open some boxes first. And some tickets. Haven't done my daily share for today yet. Wait, have I not? I thought I did it already. Look at his nipples. They're just drawn on. It's fucking hilarious. Where's my Melza, man? It's been ages. I already finished upgrading all my end units and Melza is still not here. So sad. So depressing. Oh, I got my gems for the day. Come. So let's do a character review, okay? What heroes are good for the current meta and which heroes are probably not desirable. So, right now, if you look at my lineup, I have Carnage right here. So, of course, I've invested quite a lot into Carnage for the simple reason being that he is a win condition hero. So what I mean by win condition is that usually you need one hero left standing after both sides smack the shit out of each other in PvP, and Carnage is one of the few heroes that usually last till the end just cause he's so tanky, and this skill, reflect 30% of damage taken back, is really very powerful for just the mere fact that you can stack HP on him and get him to reflect it back. So I personally think that if you leveled Carnage back then, if you can get him to minimum 5 stars, he is always a staple of your lineup. Okay, but he definitely has dropped in terms of value after Zombieman came out, just cause it's a lot easier for enemies to heal back the damage taken from his passive. So from tier S, I'll say maybe if you want to tier the heroes, it's maybe a tier A now. King. 5-star upgraded Max King is still top of the meta right now. He has a lot of purposes. First of all, he has a guaranteed shatter or normal attack. So you don't want a shatter comp, but what you want is for bossing and for other things, you want a single source of shatter. So usually people use Sonic for that purpose, but if you have a King, he doubles up as an AoE damage dealer, he doubles up as a healer, and he doubles up as a shatter. So overall, King is a solid choice for both DPS as well as utility, and I would say that in terms of the meta right now, he is the best AoE damage dealer along with Tatsumaki and Garou. So tier S. And next we have Boros. So Boros, in terms of the meta, he is not absolutely necessary, and he requires a very specific comp to be built around him. I think he's quite He's just fun to look at, I guess, and his healing from his passive is really, really valuable with Zombieman. So for 2 rounds, he usually can't die, and if you build him properly, he really deals a shit ton of damage to single target. So it's a good bossing unit, but the problem is whether you support him with other characters. So, for example, if you've seen Pretty Boros, the Boros specialist play his lineup, he usually uses like he puts a lot of points into Mosquito Girl. He puts a lot of points into heroes that can boost his Boros and keep everyone alive, like Melza. So I don't have Melza. I wish I had Melza. If you look at my slots here, my Boros gets a full plus 20% HP just with Melza alone. But if I had him, my Boros would probably be a lot higher in PP right now. So I personally think that Boros is probably something like a tier A hero, but easily tier S when it comes to bossing. He's definitely the highest damage dealer, and if you have a Melza and Mosquito Girl on your team, you can play a stall comp with Boros as the main damage dealer. Garou, so many things to say about this guy. He is game changing. Okay, there are a lot of things he does that other heroes cannot do. So for example, there are only 2 sources, or rather 3 sources of internal injury in the game right now. If you look at the Zombieman passive, unleashing internal injury increases out damage by 20%. So there are only 2 heroes that can do that. One is Silver Fang's out, second is Garou's out, and the third one, which is kind of not convenient, is Bakuzan's out. So the fact that Garou literally gives internal injury just by having an enemy follow-up is sick. His passive follow-ups deal a ton of damage. It's 90% basic attack with internal injury procs, which is insane. So you need to understand that the internal injury procs create a lot of damage output. It's not just like, he's just following up. He's actually dealing the internal injury damage, and that's insane. So Garou is just broken, and a lot of things he does, like for example, if the opponent has an alloy and you have a Garou, when the alloy takes his turn with his normal attack, the tenacity actually gets broken by the follow-up, which is really, really funny. It means that alloy has dropped a lot in utility if you don't boost him enough to make his shield strong. Of course, it's 10%, so if you have a really strong alloy, you might be able to take the follow-up hit, but it's unlikely lah. Okay. Now, why am I putting so much emphasis on this hero? I'm not saying he's a must draw, but he definitely completes the team comp for most players. As a grappler and as a unit that is critical to triggering the 20% out damage, he is one of the most useful ways to do it. So there are 2 main comps around him, AoE DPS comps. One is Garou followed by Tatsumaki, and the other is Slow Roll King, which is you let the Garou trigger follow up on an opponent that goes first and let your king have 5 to 7 energy to out, which is the one I'm doing because I don't have a good Tatsumaki. Next, Silver Fang. So Silver Fang is the most reliable way to proc shields for Zombieman's core, but of course Tanktop is a close second place after Silver Fang. He is a cheap unit in that you don't have to put a lot of resources into him. 3 stars is okay, but he is kind of squishy. So I put in a lot of HP gear, and yet he's still squishy. So just bear in mind that when you have a Silver Fang in your lineup, sometimes you may even want him at the back of your lineup. And one thing about this Silver Fang that's a weak point is that after turn 2, you no longer generate shields. So for drawn out battles, he is not as strong as Tanktop, for example, just cause you lose 2 energy every round. But then again, if you upgrade your talents, if you upgrade your skills properly, you will get this fill out energy gauge increase. So over time, you will feel like you have too much energy rather than too little. Okay? And there are some people who ask about his out, his normal attack. Honestly, none of it is relevant. He's kind of weak. Just use him as a passive shield generator. Zombieman, critical unit for all lineups right now. His core is too strong, and on top of that, his revive mechanic is necessary for bossing. His first skill is excellent for extra damage bonus. 100% extra damage taken by enemies just from the injury alone. So no question about it. If there's a core you want to be playing right now, it is Zombieman. If you don't have Zombieman, you are gonna find yourself getting destroyed by people 2 million BP below you, just off the fact that you don't have Zombieman. And if you are still playing like a CE speed comp, you better be wailing really really hard to keep up. So if you don't have Zombieman, skip everything and save for him. I mean, you could just play however you want if you're F2P, but if you're trying to stay competitive in the meta, because some people, even though they are free to play, they still want to be good at the game, right? Then you really need to focus on getting certain heroes out. You can skip things like Boros, but you must have Zombieman. It's a tier S hero. Amai, okay, for F2P players, Amai is your highest investment. You invest him 6 stars minimum, you put everything into him, talents maxed out, SACs maxed out. Basically, Amai is your go-to for clearing boss content. You don't have Boros, you need Amai. And even for Club Boss Boros, right, Amai is critical to take out the backline 3 Goribas, Melza, and Goribas Melza and Garou Shoop combo. You need Amai to be taking those units out. In fact, right now, my ideal composition is actually to remove CK and put in Amai so that I kill the back 3 faster, and I can use Amai's 2 energy to keep smacking Boros. But I can't do that right now just because my Amai is not strong enough. So for me, it's a investment issue. I have too many grapplers, but for F2P, you shouldn't have as many as me to worry about. You should only have Beast King, Amai, and probably either Carnage or Tanktop. So it's quite straightforward for you. Now, let's move on to some of the other units. Vaccine Man is out of the meta right now. The thing you need to know about him is that he will come back later. If you are playing this super late, when Awakened Tatsu comes out, you will find that Vaccine Man becomes a core unit once more. But for the time being, he's not good enough because there's only Goribas to go with him. Then again, if you have a super duper strong Goribas, I haven't seen one yet, you might be able to break this meta, but I haven't seen it happen. So both of them are a bit out of meta right now. Goribas still has a purpose as a buffer. So if you are playing him, it's good to throw formal gear on him, like what I'm doing right now. I have all formal gear, crit to trigger. I don't level up anything beyond that, and I'm still getting shards for him from the club every day because my focus is on getting him to 5 stars. Once he reaches 5 stars, his passive upgrades to, instead of 10% times 3, it's 15% times 3. So you get 45% attack whenever he corrodes people. With formal gear, that is actually, I'm not even sure if it can go above 3, I don't think so, but it may go above 3. Let's have a look actually. So if you look at a passive skill level up, 15% times 3, so you have 45% buff just from corroding 3 targets. Now we move on to Atomic. You can forget about this guy, completely out of the meta, doesn't matter if you have keepsake or not. The only people still playing him as a DPS are doing some weird combo with a Zombieman as a follow-up trigger. That's okay, but I don't think it's very relevant either. So if you're still leveling Atomic, I suggest you put your resources elsewhere. Don't waste your time on him. Alloy. Now Alloy is a bit of a weird spot. If your server has a lot of Garous, then he is a bad shield generator. I would say Tanktop might be better, but he is still a free shield generator. So there are ways around the Garou comp. You can, for example, leave Alloy in slot 5 or slot 6, and he will still be able to generate his shield for at least generate the 2 energy for the next turn. However you play this guy, just know that his main purpose to exist is actually his out damage reduction rate for allies. This is particularly strong against, for example, Tatsumaki, and it's completely passive, so it's like having damage reduction. Some people have been running Magic Man instead of him. I think there are merits to both builds. If your server has a lot of extra damage, maybe Magic Man is better. If you need a shield generator and grappler for your Zombieman core, then I think Alloy is better. So he is definitely strong. Meta Knight, I would say out of meta, but still used as a buffer. I myself, I run him as a buffer. He is more relevant for players who are running Tatsumaki, so just bear that in mind when you use him. Ideally, you want formal gear on him with hit percent, so that he gets off more instances of his injure. Every injure he procs, Tatsumaki's damage increases a lot, and additionally, he gives an attack buff. As you can see from the skill, every injured enemy increases your team's attack by 10%. So Meta Knight is not a unit I'll invest in. As you can see, I put in 2 stars for him and I'll never get him above that. Just not really relevant to the end game compositions. DSK is completely out of the meta, but if you are poor and you need a budget shield gen, DSK can kind of generate a shield by taking more than 50% of its health in damage, so you can consider that. Sonic is completely out of the meta. He is used to as a budget shatter if you don't have King. CE is out of the meta since he's been replaced by Zombieman core, but of course there are still players who use CE to do various things like shatter and do berserk buffs in Boros composition. So he is actually a good bossing unit, but the investment relevant to him is too much for me to handle. So if you have a 5-star CE look at the 5-star, let's look at the 5-star passive, right? He gives 45% berserk state. If you have his 5-star and you use him and you have his keepsake, you can place him in certain positions in your Boros bossing comp, and it's kind of worth it. But other than that, his damage output and everything is quite negligible, and his core is now irrelevant. So use that info as you may. Puri Puri Prisoner still has users because he is still one of the best sources of weaken, and single target damage wise he's okay. But I would say that he is not as important. I would say that he is a tier B unit lah. You won't, even if you invest a lot into him, it doesn't return much. His damage has a certain limit to it. But if you want to meme and have fun, this is a unit you can consider. Bakuzan is completely irrelevant now. Tanktop, like I said, is one of the best shield gens right now, but he needs very specific gear. He needs HP speed, which is hard to come by. So if you find HP speed gear for him, go ahead, be my guest. You can play Tanktop. I think ultimately you need a shield gen. Tanktop is the most reliable, but he will spend 2 energy to do it. Mosquito Girl used in certain lineups like what I mentioned just now with Boros. Genus, he is still very strong, but to run him, I think you need to sacrifice a slot that could be used for someone more important. So as a budget unit for a Zombieman lineup, he triggers 30% attack buff, which is great. And he doesn't really do much on his own, but his normal attack deals 120%, which is actually abnormal compared to other units. If you look at, for example, my Fubuki here, even though it's an SR unit, it's 105. If you look at Combo, my normal attack 100. If you look at Sky King, normal attack 100. But Genus is the only one that has 120%. So as a passive unit that you are just leaving him there, it's okay. It's not crazy strong, but his buff can be helpful for certain lineups. You can also play around with genetic transform. The speed increase here can actually make or break certain lineups, so you can see how you can plan out your Genus combo. Tatsumaki, no need to say much. Probably the top DPS if you have her maxed out to the upper limits. Now that buff gears are out and you can increase crit further, she becomes even stronger. And if you have a super high tier crazy Tatsumaki, you will deal more damage than anyone else in the game. Now the drawback is that she doesn't have unyielding. She's quite squishy, and overall as a unit she doesn't have much role beyond being a AoE damage dealer. Her normal attack weakens a bit, which is kind of useful for Club Boss Boros, but it's still not like a game changer. Lami in the Discord chat uses Tatsumaki for one of the Esper slots for his Boros comp, so you can take that into consideration when playing this build. Combo is same as Goribas, out of meta because Koro is not strong enough anymore. Take the info as you may. Sky King, extra damage boost, still kind of relevant if you want to play a King comp for one, like a super high damage King comp, but I think there are better units in its place. Useless. Mumen is being run as a cheap grappler slot for doing certain speed maneuvers. You can put strong attack gear and use Mumen to control your speed. But right now, because Garou is out, he dies much faster, so just be wary that cheap moments are no longer as viable. One follow-up to most moments that I'm looking at right now takes out more than 2/3 of his HP. I'm sure a Garou that is at the 1.6 mil and above BP range can one shot and trigger the Unyu for moment, making him unable to cast even his normal speed boost. Garou is fairly useless, but if you have a 5-star Garou, you want to play around and destroy people's energy, be my guest. He can burn, you can seal off 4 energy and make people's lineup fucked up if you play Garou together with King. Useless, useless, useless. Everything from this point is useless, although I want to draw mention to Magic Man since a lot of people have been running him in their compositions, and Golden Ball later I'll talk about him. So Magic Man is kind of an interesting unit. If you max him out to 5 stars, you have damage, extra damage reduction for 30% for 3 rounds. This is a passive effect even if he's dead, which means that you can use this to create some damage reduction together with the memories that can really reduce the amount of damage people are dealing. For example, Tatsumaki's passive, King's damage, and Night Set, all these are extra damage sources, and he drastically reduces the amount of damage taken from those. So as a unit used in certain compositions, he can be quite powerful, but the problem is that he's a duelist and you don't really need duelist slot inside the Zombieman lineup. Now for the Golden Ball comps, I would say that Golden Ball is still strong, but the problem is that, like I mentioned, you need 4 grapplers, you only have 2 slots to spare. For F2P units, I guess Golden Ball is still okay, but there are better options. So still for an SR unit, I would say maybe B or A tier, but definitely has fallen from grace now that the meta has moved on and everyone else is kind of worthless here. So yeah, that's the comp review for now. I don't have Melza, I cannot tell you what Melza really does, but basically Melza is a damage reduction source. So yep, if you are playing Melza, you are probably a hipster. You just like healing and watching people try and hit you but dealing no damage. That doesn't always work out though, so just be careful. Yep. I can talk about other things like what gear each of them should use, but I think I'm just doing a quick run through of each unit and what are their strengths right now. So just remember that if you want to be competitive during Club Boss Boros stages, you want Amai and you want Beast King to be leveled. These two are very critical for F2P players. And for those people who are playing Boros, preferably you want a Tatsu or King or both of them to help you increase your damage output against Club Boss Boros. Yep, so that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, you can just leave them in the comments. This is just a quick meta review. So thanks for watching and see ya.